We're used to actresses from the golden age being perfect porcelain dolls, terrified of an extra wrinkle. But picture a woman whom powerful producers told straight to her face, "You're too ugly. Your face doesn't catch the light. You look like a maid who stole the silver." Any other would have run to a plastic surgeon. But Anna Magnani transformed her eye bag's raspy voice and raw, untamed fury into a weapon of mass destruction. She physically obliterated glossy cinema, survived the most public and brutal betrayal of the century by her own husband, and forbade makeup artists from covering her wrinkles, declaring she paid for them with blood. Today, we will dissect the anatomy of a woman who refused to be desired to become immortal, and discover why being truly alive is always a sentence to loneliness. 10 seconds. That's all it took for one woman, chasing a truck over Roman cobblestones, to kill old cinema. The moment she hit the asphalt, Hollywood's glossy divas suddenly seemed like fake dolls. She didn't just play death, she destroyed the very notion of a beautiful actress. In a world obsessed with beautiful lies, Anna Magnani became the ugly truth you couldn't look away from. You clicked on this video because you feel it. Modern standards of beauty and success are suffocating. They tell you, be the best version of yourself. Hide your flaws. Smile. Anna Magnani did the exact opposite. She took everything society deemed flaws, her dark circles, her harsh voice, her rough marketplace manner, and turned it into a weapon of mass destruction. Today, we won't read a dry Wikipedia biography. We're doing something different. We're dissecting the anatomy of a woman who refused to be desired to become immortal. You'll learn how her ugliness shattered the careers of perfect Hollywood stars. We'll see why her on-screen rage terrified men to their core, because it wasn't acting, it was a real threat. And most importantly, we'll understand why, at the end of her life, she was left in absolute solitude, proving a terrifying theorem. Being real means being inconvenient for everyone. I've dug through dozens of interviews, archival records, and contemporaries' memories to find those details biographers usually keep quiet about. Forget the image of a cheerful Italian with a plate of pasta. Before us is a tragedy of ancient proportions. Anna Magnani's story is a survival guide in a world that doesn't want to see you as you are. And it begins not on the red carpet, but at the moment the old world collapsed. Act 1. The death of the white telephone. To grasp the magnitude of Anna Magnani's impact, you first need to understand what she destroyed. You can't build something new without tearing down the old. In Magnani's case, the old building was an entire genre, an entire era of deceit known as the white telephone cinema. Picture Italy under Mussolini. Streets filled with black shirts, fear, poverty, and the looming shadow of war. But step into a cinema, and the Italian audience was transported into a sterile, hollow hallucination. On screen, the white telephones reigned, a genre of sentimental melodramas set in sprawling apartments, where women wore silk robes, men were gallant, and the biggest problem was a misunderstanding in a love triangle. It was anesthesia. The regime used cinema to convince the nation, we live in paradise. Women in this world were mere decoration. They were porcelain dolls, obedient, ethereal, with perfect hair that stayed immaculate even during a meltdown. Anna Magnani was the antithesis of this world. She was a physical affront to the aesthetics of fascism. They told her this to her face. Early in her career, directors looked at her with disdain. She was too short, too dark. Her eye bags were too pronounced, and that voice, husky, rasping, a plebeian laugh that grated like metal on glass. One famous producer told her, "Anna, you'll never be a star. Your face doesn't catch the light. You look like a maid who just stole the silver." She didn't fit the mold, but it was precisely this misfit quality that became the dynamite under the foundations of old cinema. Magnani didn't try to fit into the white telephone world. She waited for the moment to smash that phone against the wall. The moment of truth came in 45. Director Roberto Rossellini, with whom Magnani had a tumultuous affair, filmed Rome Open City. This wasn't a normal film production. They stole film stock or bought it on the black market. Shooting took place on the streets because the Cinecittà studio lay in ruins. Lighting was improvised. The script demanded Magnani play Pina, a pregnant woman from the common folk, fiancée to the underground fighter Francesco. The film's key scene, the Germans raid. Francesco is arrested and shoved into a truck. Pina sees this. By old cinema standards, the heroine would have elegantly wrung her hands, shed a single aesthetic tear, and fainted into a friend's arms, or delivered a pompous monologue about freedom. Magnani did what her instincts as a beast whose young was being taken dictated. She broke free from the crowd. She ran. That run made it into every film studies textbook. But let's be honest, it wasn't a pretty run. It was terrifying. She ran heavily, awkwardly, scattering German soldiers. Her hair was disheveled, stockings slipping, her face contorted in a grimace of absolute primal terror. She screamed, "Francesco! Francesco!" as if her insides were being ripped out. Then came the burst of gunfire. Magnani fell to the asphalt. And here's the most important part. She didn't fall like a theatrical prima, gracefully spreading her dress. She fell like a sack, heavily, dully, unattractively. Her skirt hiked up, revealing legs, not for seduction, but in the helplessness of death. The camera didn't look away. We saw her lying on the dirty Roman cobblestones, and in this frame, there wasn't an ounce of grandeur, only dust, blood, and the senselessness of murder. In that moment, looking at dead Pina, the audience understood. White telephones no longer worked. You couldn't watch painted dolls fretting over a broken nail after this. Magnani showed the world a new truth of the body. She legitimized sweat, dirt, heavy breathing, and rage. She showed that a woman in cinema could be not an object of desire, but a subject of history, even if that history lasts only a few seconds before death. The effect was like a nuclear bomb going off in culture. When the film hit theaters, audiences fainted, not from special effects, but from recognition. They saw themselves on screen. Magnani wasn't playing a role. She became a conduit for the collective pain of a nation that had just survived a war. Critics would later call it neorealism. But for Anna, it was personal. In that scene, she wasn't just running after a truck. She was running from her past, from all those producers who called her ugly. With her on-screen death, she proved that life isn't silk and champagne. Life is blood on the asphalt. She shattered the myth that an actress must be beautiful to be loved. She proved the opposite. To be truly loved, you must be so alive it hurts to watch. But where did this animalistic fury come from? Why could she portray despair like no one else? The answer isn't in her acting school, which she barely had. The answer lies deeper, in her childhood, where the word mother was forbidden. To understand her strength, we need to descend into the basements of her psyche, where her main trauma was born. Act 2, Anatomy of Rejection. If her scene in Rome Open City marked her public birth as an actress, what we're about to discuss is her private death as a person, happening over and over again. We've come to call Anna Magnani a she-wolf. Critics love this term to describe her fierce temperament, her ability to fight tooth and nail for her characters, her growling voice. But let's remember biology. A wolf only turns aggressive in two scenarios: when it's hungry or cornered. Anna Magnani's entire life resembled that of a creature cornered from birth. Her talent wasn't a divine gift. It was a pathology, a side effect of a monstrous hole in her chest, the size of that very Rome she loved so much. Every psychologist knows. Character forms by age 5. In those years, Anna learned one lesson that became the script of her life. You are unwanted. She was born illegitimate. In early 20th century Catholic Italy, this wasn't just a social status, it was a brand. You are a mistake. You are a sin. Her father vanished before her first cry. She spent her life searching for traces of him, and when she finally found him as an adult, he slammed the door in her face. But the real tragedy wasn't her father. The real tragedy was named Marina. Her mother, Marina Magnani, did something Anna could never forgive. She left. She married a wealthy Austrian and moved to Alexandria, Egypt, leaving young Anna in the care of her grandmother in the Roman slums. Picture this scene. Not a cinematic one, but real. A little girl watches as the most important person in her universe packs her bags. Her mother chooses a new life, new comfort, a new man. And in this new life, there's no room for Anna. Anna is old baggage, too costly to carry. Egypt became a symbol of lost paradise for Magnani. In her teenage years, she made a desperate attempt to reclaim love. She traveled to Alexandria to see her mother. She thought it would be a reunion. She expected hugs, tears, repentance. Reality slapped her hard. Marina greeted her daughter coldly, like a distant relative arriving at the wrong time. She had her own family, her own social events, her own world. Anna was an alien element there. Rough, loud, too Roman for her mother's refined society. She returned to Rome not just rejected. She returned with a clear understanding. Love doesn't exist. Only power does. It was on that journey from Egypt to Italy that the girl died and the actress was born. Magnani realized something terrifying. If you're quiet, you'll be forgotten. If you ask, you'll be denied. If you show weakness, you'll be crushed. She developed a strategy that became her signature style in life and film: preemptive aggression. She decided to be so loud, so noticeable, so unbearable that the world couldn't ignore her. Her legendary naturalness wasn't freedom. It was armor. Why did she scream on screen so intensely it chilled audiences to the bone? Because subconsciously, she was still screaming at that departing mother. "Look at me! I'm here! I exist!" She filled every space with herself. In relationships with men, she was a tyrant. She smothered them with care, jealousy, scandals. It wasn't the passion of a grown woman. It was the panic of a child clinging to the leg of a departing adult, desperate not to be abandoned again. She took revenge on every man for her father and demanded from each partner the unconditional love her mother never gave. Naturally, no one could withstand this pressure, and when they left, she found grim satisfaction. I knew it. Everyone leaves. This is the secret of her genius, one modern actresses can't replicate. When today's actresses play drama, they imagine pain. They use emotional memory techniques. Anna Magnani didn't use technique. She simply opened the floodgates. She knew humiliation inside out. She knew what it felt like to be seen as second-rate. She knew her face was wrong, her nose too long, her build stocky. And instead of hiding it, she threw it at the audience with defiance. Yes, I'm like this, and you'll watch me. She turned her trauma into fuel. In every character she played, whether Pina from Rome, Maddalena from The Most Beautiful, or Mama from Mama Roma, we see this desperate fight for dignity. Her heroines are always women on the edge, women life kicks down, and they get up and spit back. This wasn't acting. It was live therapy. The camera became the perfect mother she never had, never blinking, always focused on her. Only in front of the lens did she feel safe, because as long as the camera rolled, she was the center of the universe. That's why she feared aging and losing popularity so much. For her, it wasn't just about losing work. It meant returning to the state of that little girl left with her grandmother. Being forgotten by the public was death for Magnani. This deep, bleeding vulnerability made her a monster in life, but a goddess on screen. The audience felt it in their bones. There was no fakery here. Because you can't play such pain unless you carry it inside you every day, like a loaded gun. But what happens when this untamed, traumatized, utterly unfit force meets the toughest illusion-making machine in the world? What happens when the Roman she-wolf meets Hollywood? Act 3. The Hollywood Anomaly, mid-50s. Hollywood isn't just a spot on the map. It's a sterile operating room for cutting out human flaws. It's the Technicolor era, where grass is greener than life and teeth whiter than nature allows. On the throne sit goddesses, Grace Kelly, Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn, women like flowers, women like statuettes, made to be admired, rescued, to adorn men's lives. Into this glossy sanctuary storms Anna Magnani. Her arrival in American cinema was like unleashing a wild bear at a high society ball. This wasn't just a cultural clash. It was a biological conflict. The Hollywood star system thrived on total control. Studios decided whom actresses married, how they dressed, what they said. But Magnani was a force of nature. She didn't speak English, despised corsets and diets, wore the shadows under her eyes like war paint. She was supposed to fail. By all marketing laws, the American audience, used to cotton candy, should have rejected this raw meat. But the unthinkable happened. America fell in love. And it wasn't love for the beautiful. It was love for what they lacked in their plastic paradise. The scent of real life. Playwright Tennessee Williams, the era's chief pathologist of human souls, wrote The Rose Tattoo just for her. He saw in her what American actresses lacked: the ability to exist on the edge of a nervous breakdown without theatrics. Williams called her a rare beast that refuses to live in a cage. 1956. The Oscar ceremony. The whole world watches to see who will claim the coveted statuette. The competition is insane. But when host Jerry Lewis announces the winner for Best Actress, Anna Magnani for The Rose Tattoo, the room explodes. And on stage, emptiness. She wasn't there. Magnani didn't come to Los Angeles. She stayed in Rome. It was an unprecedented slap in the face to the vanity industry. Actresses worldwide would kill for that moment of triumph, to thank mom, dad, and producer on stage. But Magnani chose to stay home with a sick dog and her solitude. She learned of her win at 5:30 in the morning, Rome time. An American journalist called her. Magnani's reaction was the quintessence of her character. She didn't scream with joy, she started swearing. She thought it was a cruel prank. "How dare you joke like this?" she yelled into the phone, ready to smash it against the wall. It took her a few minutes and confirmation from friends to believe it. Why didn't she go? The official story: fear of flying. The real reason: fear of rejection. Her internal loser script was so strong, she was sure they wouldn't give her the award. She didn't want to sit in the audience and watch another beautiful, proper American win. She preferred to hide. This Oscar became historic, not because she won it, but for what she won it for. She played Serafina Della Rose, a widow going mad from grief and sexual frustration. She roamed the screen disheveled, in a sweaty slip, screaming, fighting. It was the anti-Marilyn Monroe. If Monroe sold the promise of sex, Magnani showed the aftermath of passion. She revealed that love isn't a diaphragm kiss at sunset, but dirt, pain, jealousy, and physical weight. Anna Magnani became the first Italian woman to win an Oscar. But her victory meant more. She set a precedent: character over beauty. She forced Hollywood to admit that a woman could be aging, tired, rough, and still be the center of gravity. She showed that sexuality doesn't live in perfect proportions. Sexuality lives in energy. In an interview from that time, she said, "I'm not an actress. I'm a woman living her roles." American critics were shocked. They were used to the method, to acting schools, to technique. And here came a woman who just slit her veins in front of the camera, metaphorically, sometimes it seemed literally, and let the audience watch the blood. Hollywood tried to tame her. They offered her contracts, money, mansions, but she returned to Rome. She knew in Hollywood she'd become an exotic animal in a zoo. She needed freedom. She needed her Roman streets, her cats, her real life. She left a winner, leaving America bewildered. She proved you could break all the rules, not learn the language, not show up for the award, and still make the world bow. Because truth is the only language that needs no translation. But this professional victory had a dark side. The higher she rose as an actress, the more her personal life crumbled. Her success scared men. Her strength emasculated them. And the fiercest battle awaited her not in Hollywood, but at home, in Italy. A battle where the dirtiest weapon was used against her. Another woman, her complete opposite. This tale of betrayal became the loudest scandal of the century. And it was this that finally turned Magnani from an actress into a tragic myth. Act 4. Love as a battlefield. Think you know what a love triangle is? Forget everything you've seen in soap operas. What happened between Anna Magnani, Roberto Rossellini, and Ingrid Bergman wasn't a tabloid tale. It was an ancient war where cameras replaced swords and active volcanoes became the battlefield. This is the story of how Italy's greatest actress faced every woman's worst nightmare: being replaced by a younger, prettier, and more acceptable version. Roberto Rossellini and Anna Magnani weren't just lovers. They were the king and queen of Rome. Their relationship was a constant eruption, smashing dishes in restaurants, shouting on film sets, and making up as fiercely as they fought. It was a union of equals, earth and fire. But Rossellini was a director, and directors always seek a new muse. Enter Ingrid Bergman. Swedish superstar, Hollywood icon, the embodiment of Nordic cool, elegance, and absolute perfection. She wrote Rossellini a famous letter. "If you need an actress who speaks English very well, hasn't forgotten her German, can manage French, and knows only ti amo in Italian, I'm ready to come. For Magnani, this letter was a death sentence, but the blow was twofold. Rossellini didn't just leave her for another woman. He gave her the role. He prepared the film Stromboli, Land of God. The script was written for Magnani. It was supposed to be a story about a strong, earthy woman in harsh conditions. Giving this role to the refined Bergman wasn't just betrayal. It was professional treason. It was like telling Anna, "Your authenticity is no longer needed. I want a pretty picture." Any other woman in Anna's place might have broken. Faded into the background, withered in gilded cages. But we're talking about Magnani. Her pain instantly turned into action. She decided to make her own film. Thus began perhaps the craziest competition in film history, dubbed by the press as the War of the Volcanoes. Rossellini and Bergman headed to the island of Stromboli to shoot their masterpiece. Magnani gathered a crew, found director William Dieterle, and went to the neighboring island of Vulcano to shoot a film with a telling title, Volcano. Imagine this surreal scene. Two film camps within sight of each other. On one island, the traitor and his new muse. On the other, the abandoned fury, working with the obsession of a maniac. Magnani filmed under inhuman conditions. Heat, sulfur stench, sharp rocks. She hauled stones, dove into the sea, tore her feet to shreds. She wanted to prove one thing to Rossellini. Your Swede will never be as real as I am. She'll act suffering, but I'm living it right now. Journalists went wild. It was the first global reality show. Italy split into two camps. The common people sided with Anna. She was one of their own, betrayed, wronged, yet proud. Bergman was seen as an invader, a husband stealer. Plus, Bergman was married herself, sparking a massive scandal. Magnani used the filming as an exorcism, every frame of Volcano soaked in her personal hatred and longing. She wasn't playing a betrayed heroine. She was documenting her own agony. In theaters, neither film became a masterpiece, to be honest. Stromboli would later be recognized as a classic, while Volcano remained more of a historical curiosity. But in the psychological war, Magnani won. Why? Because she exposed Rossellini's main flaw. He tried to turn the cold Bergman into the fiery Magnani. He made Ingrid walk in dirt, wear rags, be natural, but it looked fake. The audience saw a dressed-up princess. Meanwhile, Magnani on the neighboring island was as organic as the lava itself. This episode cemented her status as the eternal mother of Rome and a symbol of female resilience. She showed the world how to face betrayal, not with tears on a pillow, but with work. She turned her humiliation into art. Rossellini would later admit his mistake. His marriage to Bergman would crumble. He realized he sought Anna's reflection in other women, but found only pale imitations. But it was too late. Anna emerged from this battle with scars that would never heal. She understood that men would always choose the pretty wrapper, even if it was empty inside. She realized her fate was to be strong because she had no right to be weak. After the War of the Volcanoes, her gaze carried that bottomless, leaden weight we see in her later works. She stopped fighting for men. She understood that the only thing that would never betray her was her face, her wrinkles, and her talent. And it was to this, to her face as a chronicle of pain, that she would turn at the end of her life. She would do what no modern social media star would dare. She turned her old age into a manifesto. Act 5. The philosophy of wrinkles. We've reached the finale. This ending isn't about death, but the most radical act of rebellion a woman can make in the public eye. We're talking about the right to grow old. In the movie world, aging is a crime, a sin that banishes actresses from paradise. The moment time etches its first marks on their faces, the industry whispers, "Hide it. Cut it. Inject it. Pretend you're still 30. Women go under the knife, turning their faces into frozen masks, just to stay in the game, just to remain desired. Anna Magnani embraced aging not as a sentence, but as a coronation. By the 60s, she was an icon, but an inconvenient one. New wave directors respected her, but feared filming her. She was too monumental, too heavy for the light pop culture cinema of the time. They offered her roles, but with a condition. We'll tweak the lighting, add filters, make you look younger. They wanted to sell nostalgia for the young Magnani. They wanted to erase the last 20 years of her life. And then she uttered a line that should be engraved at the entrance of every beauty salon. Before a shoot, a makeup artist reached for her with foundation, trying to cover the deep lines around her eyes and mouth. Magnani caught his hand and said, "Leave them. Don't you dare touch my wrinkles. I've worked too hard for each one." Think about that. In today's world, a wrinkle is a flaw, a glitch in the code, a sign you've let yourself go. For Magnani, a wrinkle was a trophy. She saw her face not as a magazine picture, but as a biography. Every line on her face had a name. That crease by her lips, pain from Rossellini leaving, that web by her eyes, sleepless nights over her son's illness, that furrow on her brow, years battling producers. To erase her wrinkles was to betray herself. It meant saying, "None of this pain happened. None of this life happened. I'm just a doll." She refused to erase her experience for the viewer's comfort. In her final years, she resembled an ancient Roman monument. Romans don't plaster the Colosseum to make it look brand new. They pride in the cracks, because they prove it stood the test of time. Magnani became that Colosseum. In Federico Fellini's film Roma, there's a scene that became her farewell. It's almost a documentary shot. Night, a dark Roman street. Magnani walks home, tired, wrapped in a shawl. Fellini's voiceover addresses her. "Anna, can I ask you a question?" She turns. We see her face in close-up, unvarnished, bags under her eyes, heavy lids, hair in disarray. She looks at the camera with weary irony, shuts the door in the director's face, and says, "What question? Leave me alone. I want to sleep. Good night." And the door closes. Those were her last words on screen. A year later, she'd die of pancreatic cancer. But that scene holds immense wisdom. She refused to play the great actress. She refused to entertain. She showed that a woman has the right to be tired, has the right to be unpretty, has the right to just want to sleep, not be a muse for a genius director. She vanished into the darkness of the doorway, leaving us with the understanding. True strength isn't in eternal shine. True strength is in not fearing your own shadow. Why do we still talk about her? Why do her black and white photos grip us more than the high-definition color videos of modern influencers? Because we're starved for reality. We live in an age of filters, face-tuning, and endless self-presentation. We're all trying to sell the best version of ourselves. We're all afraid that if we show our underside, our fears, our fatigue, our imperfections, we'll stop being loved. Magnani proved the opposite. She showed us our own fears and made us respect them. She told us, "Your pain isn't trash. It's what your soul is made of." Her philosophy of wrinkles is a manifesto of freedom. Freedom from others' opinions. Freedom from beauty standards. Freedom to be, not to seem. In the end, she defeated time. The beautiful faces of that era are forgotten. They've merged into one mass of retro beauties. Magnani's face is unforgettable because it's etched with truth. And truth, as we found out from the start, may be ugly, but it's the only thing that can evoke real love. Anna Magnani died knowing she wasn't loved by men. She was loved by millions who saw their own reflection in her eyes. And maybe that was the love she sought since her mother boarded a ship to Egypt. Anna Magnani left this life as she lived it, under the loud applause of Rome, which took to the streets to bid farewell to its Mama Roma. She won because she made the world accept her terms. She proved that scars are sexier than perfect skin, and a scream of pain is more honest than a polite smile. She gave us permission to be inconvenient, loud, and unpretty. She showed that reality, no matter how rough, always beats an artificial dream. Act 6. The other side of the volcano war. But the saga of the War of the Volcanoes doesn't end with Magnani's triumph. There's another player in this tragedy. The one we've been conditioned to see as the villain. The one who stole Rossellini and shattered our heroine's heart. Ingrid Bergman. Through Magnani's eyes, Bergman appears as the cold, calculating snow queen who got it all. The man, the fame, the leading role. It seems like being the perfect woman is a winning ticket. But that's Hollywood's greatest illusion. If Magnani suffered because the world saw her as too wild, Ingrid Bergman endured a hell no one imagined. Being Saint Ingrid, the universal ideal, isn't a privilege. It's a maximum security prison. And when Bergman tried to escape to Rossellini, the system punished her with a cruelty Magnani couldn't dream of. At least Magnani was allowed to be a sinner. Bergman, for the same sin, faced crucifixion before the entire world. The United States Senate officially branded her a national disgrace, and millions of fans who once worshipped her began burning her photos. You've learned the price paid by a woman who refused to be beautiful. But is your mind ready to grasp the cost for those forced to be perfect? The fall of Ingrid Bergman is the harshest lesson about what happens when a good girl breaks the rules. This video will upend your understanding of who the real victim was in this love triangle. Click on the video now. The truth about Ingrid Bergman will make you shudder.